Hello, knife people. This is the Ontario Air Force Survival Knife, as known as AFSK. Please look at this. Knife hunting is the top. Shield survival pilot. Anyway, it is a hunting knife. My first military hunting knife. It was. And a couple of years ago, I owned this knife. First one. At that moment, I was much impressed with Kylie knife from New Zealand. It had a convex edge, and I was much impressed on the superiority of the convex edge. And I put a convex edge on it by hand. But it was not very sharp. I know the reason. It's because this bevel, primary bevel, from this line to the edge is 15 degrees aside, 30 degrees inclusive. Pretty deep angle. So, if it had a convex curve, the edge angle must be deeper, like 40 degrees or so, and it was dull. And after the dullness was clear, and I used a disc grinder to grind from the upper line, like here, nearly full height convex bevel. I tried to make using a disc grinder, but it produced much heat and burned the metal off, chipped off from the edge, burning red. It went burning red and chipped off. And I ruined my first this AFSK. It was my wrong experience. However, it was very, good experience for me. Heat treat is very important. The grinder or sander, belt sander, heat will ruin the heat treat. And if it went burning red, it would chip off. No edge at all. So basically, I think doing it by hand is the best way, although it takes much time. But I will do it from now on this knife. Its handle is generous. Compared to these two knives. This morning I did it. Convex edge, very sharp, but handle is short. as you see. This knife from here to here, just here, for the hand. You know, generous. No space at all. And this edge is very wrong, you know. This side, multiple, all over the edge, bars. This side, no bar. No quality control knife. It's not an edge, as you see. Just a moment. It doesn't cut the paper at all. It's not an edge. Very unique knife. It's not a knife so far. I must add something to make it a knife. So, my first attempt to convexing was failed. So, it needs a flat bevel like this knife. Scandinizing, flat basically. Then it will get as sharp as this knife, a bit thicker stock, and bevel height is a bit higher. This side lower. The bevel height is different on each. This is low. This is higher. Low quality. No quality control knife. Anyhow, I'll make this knife like this knife. Okay. This is my US military triad, Marine and Navy and Air Force. So, at that moment, 3 years ago, I did it with this 80 grit paper, 80. And I remember it took very, very much time, 5, 6, 7 hours on the 80 grit. So, after that, for this kind of job, I use 40 grit, very rough, coarse, sanding sheet. Okay. On the hard rubber pad to stabilize the paper on it. Just on the wood plate, it moves. So, not for making a convex curvature, but to stabilize the paper. It doesn't take pressure and sink at all. No problem. This will make a flat bevel on it. Okay. Maybe it will finish in 2 hours, something like 2 hours. Like this. I'd like flat bevel on it. I finished the initial grinding to get rid of the dull V edge. In 1 hour, it was unexpectedly quick. It was because I used 40 grit paper fabric. This abrasive power was very strong, and in my SE 6 case, SC 5 case and Becca BK2 case, even with this 40 grit paper, it took me 4 hours or so. It was because BK2 or SE5 has much wider bevel compared to them, very narrow. So it was just 1 hour job, easy. And what I was careful of was not to go for over angle. I mean, this tip line should not go like this, over angle. Over angle grinding always round the tip line. No good. Pointy tip is needed. And I ground around here. I raised my hand a bit to make the bevel angle even. If I did the same angle, I mean I didn't raise my hand to grind around here, and this portion would get very shallow angled bevel and get thin and weak. So gradually I raised up my hand and to observe the edge very frequently. It's very important. If the secondary V edge remained on it, this edge would not go extremely sharp. The secondary edge must be completely get rid of. And now it's a zero grind scanty edge, but it still has a very rough toothy edge made by this coarse paper. Very coarse. So 80 and 120, 240, gradually raise up the grit and I will finish this edge. It will take 1 more hour, in total 2 hours maybe. Without using backing, 240 grit paper, being careful not to go over angle, I am shaping the belly line to the point. shape the point, pointy tip is difficult. Never go for the over angle and just grind under the point. It will make a sharper point, I believe. I'm reaching the final step. 1500 grit paper. I'm happy now. From the beginning to the last, it took me 2 hours. As anticipated. Okay, for now. Yes. I must leave this guard for now. I don't have electric grinder here. Today is the debut of the US military triad. This one has a very angular belly to make the edge angle shallow, very shallow, and to make the tip very pointy. I hated a bit this shape, and around here a bit deeper angled edge, but I succeeded to make a beautiful belly and the point. This is the navy knife. This is the sharpest. This is the second sharpest. This has the deepest angle, but maybe most rugged and dependable. Cool knife. Please look at this knife again. It's a strong knife. I will leave this upper guard remaining here for 5 because I love its coolness. Military hunter. It's a cool knife. Choose. Bye.